Hi, I'm Miss Lovelady and I teach 3rd grade ELA at Sally Humble Elementary School. Today we're going to continue with our unit, The Stories Julian Tells. Today's lesson is Lesson 8 and we are going to talk about details that convey central message. So previously we've talked about central message. We've read the story, The Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Morris Lesmore, which is one of my favorites, and we are going to continue. All right, let's go. So far, we have learned how to determine the central message of a story by looking very closely at how the characters change throughout the story. Remember, Morris at the beginning was very happy, and then he was sad when he was gone from his books, and then he became happy again when he was in the library, and then he shared his happiness. So that's how we determine the central message. Today, we will identify the details that convey the central message. We're going to explain how each detail conveys that message. So let's look at that word convey. Can you say convey? Good. So convey means to kind of give to something. How did we get to this central message? How did the details help us get there? All right, so we need a little refresher. What is the central message of the Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Morris Lesmore? Remember, central message is what the author wants the reader to learn through the book. What can we learn from this? How can we apply this to our real life? So we learned in the last lesson, the central message of the story is that reading books can bring joy and connect people. So we're going to pick apart these details that led us to that. So key details, say key details. Good. Key details in the story show how reading books brought joy and connect people. So we are going to prove that this is the central message by finding some evidence, basically. And you guys are very good reading detectives, so I don't think you'll have a problem with this at all. So notice in this graphic, you've got your central message in the middle. All your key details point and lead you to your central message, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So we have this really cool graphic organizer. We're going to put our central message at the top, which we've already come up with, and we are going to find out a detail that supports that central message right here. And then we're going to explain how that detail conveys the central message. So we're going to find our central message, pick a detail, and explain why that supports the central message. We'll do it again for a second detail, explain why that supports the central message, and a third detail, and explain why that conveys the central message. Okay? So we already came up with that the central message, if you could read this aloud, please. Very good. Reading books can bring joy and connect people. Well, let's prove this. So in my first detail, why did we say that reading books can bring joy? Why did we say that? When we read the Fantastic Flying Books, I wrote that the Flying Lady's book led him to the room full of books and he started reading again. Okay? And if you recall, that happens right here. Here's the Flying Lady. I'm going to reread this page. Then a happy bit of happenstance came his way. Rather than looking down, as had become his habit, Morris Lesmore looked up. Drifting through the sky above him, Morris saw a lovely lady. She was being pulled along by a festive squadron of flying books. So this is proving that she's leading him. Remember we said that this is gray and dull. It shows sadness. And then she's very bright, which shows happiness and joy. So that supports that reading can bring you joy. We're also showing support on this page. Morris slowly walked inside and discovered the most mysterious and inviting room he had ever seen. It was filled with the fluttering of countless pages, and Morris could hear the faint chatter of 1,000 different stories, as if each book was whispering an invitation to adventure. So this proves that he's going to joy because everything in this library is colorful and he's still gray. So he's going towards the joy. So that supports can bring joy. So our first detail, the Flying Lady's book led him to the room full of books. He started reading again. Now let's explain. How does this detail convey the central message? Morris found happiness after finding the books and reading the books again. So there's our explanation. All right, let's find another detail that supports reading books can bring joy and connect people. Can you think of anything else that happened in the story that made us think that reading books can bring joy? What happened? What illustration did you see? Did somebody say something that made you think that? You're a reading detective. All right, what I came up with is that Morris shared the books with the townspeople. Right here on this page, it shows us that he is sharing his books. And we notice that he is bright in color, and the kid who has a book is bright in color. But the townspeople who don't have their books yet are gray. So that shows that they're sad. Morris liked to share the books with others. Sometimes it was a favorite that everyone loved, and other times he found a lonely little volume whose tale was seldom told. Everyone's story matters, said Morris, and all the books agreed. Very good. So the fact that Morris shared books with the townspeople proves that it can bring joy and connect people. How does this convey the central message? Morris brought the townspeople together through the sharing of the joys of reading. They became happy. It wasn't just one at a time. It was everybody came together as a community, and that's usually looked at as positive. All right, and then we have a third detail that, and I know I keep repeating myself with the central message, but because you're trying to prove this, we're all going back to the central message, it's okay to repeat yourself, to remind yourself of this is what I'm looking for. That's totally good. Reading books can bring joy and connect people. We said the flying lady led him to the books and he was happy. Morris shared the books with the townspeople. What's another detail that proves that books can bring you joy? Was there anybody else in the story who was happy? The little girl, she was very happy. The little girl read Morris's story and enjoyed reading. So how does this detail convey the central message? The little girl found happiness in reading Morris's book. And we can prove that on this page right here. Let's see, let me back up one page. On this page, you can see that the little girl is gray, which we said was a negative trait, and everything in the library is bright and colored. And then she turns bright and colored when she starts reading it, which shows her happiness. And then right here, if you look at her expression, she is very happy and she's bright and colorful. So we know that that goes back to our central message that reading books can bring joy because she's very joyful. Good. All right, so now what we're going to do, we have filled out our graphic organizer. We've done the hard part. This is your brainstorming. This is where you get the information from your head to the paper. If we were writing this in class, I probably wouldn't write really big, huge, complete sentences like this. You could do note-taking. It's really just a quick way to get your thoughts from your head to your paper. It's where you collect your text evidence. It's where you do all the, I say this is the hard part. So now what we're going to do is take this information and turn it into a pretty little paragraph. You don't often read things like this in the newspaper or when you watch the news and stuff. You usually read in paragraphs. So that's what we're going to do. So once again, our central message, reading books can bring joy and connect people. Let's take all this hard part that we did and turn it into a paragraph. So here's our question. What is the central message of the Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Morris Lesmore? That's our first question. Our second question is, explain using key details from the story to support your answer. That's what a third grader is all about. You have to support your answers. So I like to mark up my question. So this is my first question. I put a little 1. What is the central message of the Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Morris Lesmore? It's very important that I answer that question first. And then I like to put a little 2, because this is the second question that I have to answer. Explain using key details from the story to support your answer. So I know I've got to use key details from this story. I'm not going to pull details from Pinkalicious or Dr. Seuss. It's from this story to support your answer. Why do you think that? And here's the good news, kids. We already answered all this in the graphic organizer. So we're going to take that information, add some transition words, add a topic sentence, some punctuation if we need some filler words in there. This is where you get to be a little artist. But it's not really the hardest part. The hard part was coming up with our content and our answer. All right, so I've already written the paragraph, but I'm going to show you how to break it up, okay? It looks like a lot, but watch how we break this up. First of all, we restate the question, and that is our topic sentence. What are we writing about? So what is the central message? I said, look at the green. The central message is that reading books can bring joy and connect people. We already knew that. Now we're going to use our 3 key details. So a key detail that shows the central message, that's something that we added, is that Morris starts reading again when he finds the room full of books. Remember that was our first little spot? Let me see if I can go back. So our first detail and our explanation. That's what's in orange on the next page. A key detail that shows the central message is that Morris starts reading again when he finds the room full of books. And then our explanation. This shows the central message because Morris is happy again after he starts reading again. Okay, that was our first detail. Now I'm going to switch to my second detail, which we've already written, but we're adding some transition words. Another key detail is that Morris shared his books with the townspeople. This shows the central message because the townspeople are connecting with each other and enjoying reading. We took that straight from our chart, added some transition words, made it a complete sentence. And then our third detail. The last key detail is that the little girl enjoyed reading Morris's finished story. This shows the central message because she found happiness in reading. So if you look at this, this is a big old paragraph. And you third graders can totally write it, but you just have to break it down. So here was so I like to go back and kind of annotate it. TS, here's our topic sentence. This is what we're writing about. This is answering the question. The central message is that reading books can bring joy and connect people. This was our first detail, a key detail that shows the message, and then we explained it. This was our second detail, another key detail. And then in the pink, that was our third or our last key detail. So we just took this information and made it into one paragraph. Because I don't want you to look at this and be overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, I can't write that. You absolutely can. You just have to break it down and know what you're doing. And then you get this big, beautiful third grade paragraph, which I think is really cool. Good job. All right, now we're going to talk about 4 types of sentences. So we're going to kind of switch gears. So we have a statement. Everybody say statement. Say question, command, and exclamation. So a statement sentence is, it tells about something and it ends in a period. You can just kind of say it. I'm just telling you something. So you might say, it is spring, or we ate pizza for lunch. You're just telling somebody something. Your question asks something and begins with a question word. Who, what, when, where, and why. So what is the rabbit eating? How are you? So that's a question. Then we have a command. It tells someone to do something. It also ends in a period, just like the statement. Or it might be a request. Please feed the dog. Go sit down. Bring me the blanket. Or an exclamation shows strong feeling, and it ends in an exclamation mark. It's when you're really excited about something. All right. So what you're going to do, previously we have identified sentences, but you are actually going to be creating your own sentences. So you're going to have to be able to know what type of sentence, like what it is, what type of sentence that is, and then you're going to create it based on the topic given, okay? So our topic is joy of reading. Can you say that? Good. Joy of reading, and that kind of comes from our central message. So our first one is a statement. Can you think of a statement, ends in a period, you're just saying, but it's got to be about joy of reading. You can't write joy of reading. That's not a complete sentence. It has to have a subject and a predicate. The content has to be correct. It has to be about joy of reading. And you have to have proper punctuation and capitalization. Okay, so this is, and there are many, many answers for this, okay? And this is just the one that I came up with. So my statement is, reading books makes people happy. So it goes with our topic, joy of reading. Joy and happy are synonyms, same thing. So my content's correct. Reading books makes people happy. Now let's check my capitalization. Beginning of the sentence is capitalized. I don't have any proper nouns, so I'm good there. Everything's lowercase. And then we check punctuation. That's a statement. It ends in a period. All right, now I want you to see if you can create a question with the topic being joy of reading. So you might want to start your sentence, your question sentence with who, what, when, where, or why. And you're going to end this sentence in what type of punctuation? Good, a question mark. So I'm going to give you just a second. See if you can come up with a question about the joy of reading and say it out loud. Good. Now your question is probably going to be different than mine, and that's okay. There's lots of answers for this. So here's the question I came up with. How can I share books with people? So if you're happy about the book, when you are happy about something, you're excited, you want to share that. So that's my question. How can I share books with people? So yes, the content is correct. Is my capitalization correct? How? I want to start it with a capital letter. I is supposed to be capitalized, okay? And then my punctuation. It's a question, so it ends in a question mark. A lot of people forget about that. It ends in a question mark. And then I have this question word right here, so I know it's a question. All right, now you're going to give a command about the joy of reading. This is when you tell somebody to do something. Or request. You could start it with please. And what punctuation does a command end with? Good, a period. Very good. All right, see if you can come up with a command about the joy of reading and say it out loud. Good. So I came up with this one. Share books with other people. So my content's correct. You want to share the joy of reading. Capitalization, you capitalize the beginning of the sentence. There's no other proper nouns. And there's a period at the end. And I'm telling somebody to do something. Share books with other people. All right, our last type of sentence is an exclamation. That's my favorite one. So it ends in what type of punctuation? Good, an exclamation mark. Very good. So our topic is joy of reading. Can you think of a sentence about the joy of reading? Now, I think this is kind of easy because joy usually is happy and excited. So see if you can think of one and read it out loud. I'm going to give you a second before I give you mine. Good job. All right, here's mine. Morris loves reading. So we have loves as a very strong word. So my content is correct. Now, you would not put, I guess you could. Morris loves reading. We've got our punctuation is correct, exclamation mark at the end. Our capitalization is correct. Morris, that's a proper noun, so it's capitalized, but it's also the beginning of the sentence. Morris loves reading. That's the exclamation. Good. So you did a very good job of creating your own sentences. And like I said, these aren't the only answers. These are just the one that I came up with that you can kind of look at. All right. So in this lesson, you learned that the characters in the story found joy and connection through reading. And you also identified and explained key details that conveyed the central message of a story, and you wrote a beautiful little paragraph on it. All right, y'all have a great day. Bye.